Start with Irma here, and I'll show you the latest. Here's a satellite picture. We'll zoom in a little bit. You see that well-defined eye there, that very westerly to west-southwesterly motion. You can see actually a little, if you just watch the eye, you'll see that little jog down to the southwest there, and you'll notice this here. Let me zoom in on this for you a little bit. So a series now of watches and warnings have been issued, including hurricane warnings for Antigua, Barbuda here, Guadalupe under a hurricane watch. We've got the Virgin Islands under a hurricane watch as well, so a tropical storm much farther south. So we got a lot going on here. These islands could be impacted over the next couple of days as Irma continues to make its way over to the west. So when we put this into motion, possibly a Category 4 hurricane by this evening, and then traveling a little more westerly and west-northwesterly than the previous forecast. Winds at 145, still a Cat 4. Still a Cat 4 as it makes its way either over or very close to Hispaniola by Thursday, and then Friday making its way toward Cuba here. And you notice how big the cone is here, and that's because the computer models have not quite come together yet with a more concise forecast once we get past Friday. So that's why the cone is so big, meaning it could end up all the way down here or all the way up here. But over the next couple of days, some of the trickier variables involved in trying to forecast this storm will be moved out of the way, and we'll get a much better idea by Tuesday and Wednesday of where this storm is going and what it could mean for us. The computer models are in good agreement over the next few days. You see there's quite a split toward the end here. European model taking it up toward the Carolinas. The American model currently bringing it up toward Florida. There's some models taking it to the Gulf. These models are going to change around a lot over the next few days. So don't panic about it. Don't get stressed out. Just keep up to date on the forecast as we continue through the rest of the week. We still have time to watch this storm.
Look at these new satellite images captured by NASA from space. You can see just how intense this storm is already. Meteorologist Liz Horton is here now with the latest advisory. It came in at 11. Everyone in the newsroom was waiting for it. How's it looking right now?
You know, it's a strengthening storm, and it is of major concern to South Florida. You know, a lot of people I don't think are taking it quite seriously enough yet, because they're saying, oh, it's still so far out, and it is, and things could change. But a lot of the models right now are really starting to come together, which is why meteorologists are saying, hey, now there's a little bit of reason for concern. So let's take you through what you need to know. First of all, look at this hurricane. It has that typical S shape that we typically see, where you see that curve. It just looks just like an S. You can almost track it here with those outer bands. This storm is expanding. What was once a compact storm with really only hurricane force winds about 30 miles, 40 miles out from the center has now seen a big change in that. We're even seeing tropical storm force winds 140 miles out of the center. So we're certainly seeing this footprint grow, and it will likely continue to grow as it undergoes what we call eye wall replacement cycles. These are the latest stats as of the 11 a.m. advisory. 120 mile per hour sustained winds, gust up to 140, pressure 944 millibars, and it is about 560 miles east of the Leeward Islands. The National Hurricane Center continues to update its path. We had a complete advisory at 11. We'll have another a minor update around 2, and then another complete advisory around 5 o'clock. And we'll likely see that path, of course, maybe either stay the same, go a little bit farther south. Right now, they have it right here over Cuba by Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning. Most of the models have the storm curving back out towards South Florida, which is why we are being prepared, and we're making sure that we know exactly what's going on. And you'll know that you need to do that too. Notice by probably Tuesday, Wednesday, Puerto Rico looking at 60% chance of those tropical storm force winds. These are the probabilities. Grand Turk certainly seeing that. And then into Friday, Bahamas start to feel a little bit of the wrath of that as well. Okay. Spaghetti models stop 5 days out. Then we shift our focus to the two models we have, the European model and the GFS model. Both of those right now are almost directly underneath South Florida by Sunday, showing that we would already be feeling the impacts of some of those outer bands pushing through Florida on Monday, and then by Tuesday exiting out to the north. The two models are a little bit different once you get into Tuesday, but for the most part, they're starting to come together and converging, and that's the reason for concern. Sea surface temperatures are expected to stay very warm. That's one of the other reasons we're concerned, because that does indeed continue favorable strengthening characteristics there. You can see in the tropics, we're also watching another wave. This one has a 70% chance of development in the next 5 days. It is also expected to move west, so we will be watching that one. And then one out in the Bay of Campeche, which has a low chance of development. Here, just beautiful sunshine, a few clouds, and yes, I do think this afternoon we'll likely see some scattered showers and storms. The Keys, beautiful, but inland, not seeing too much going on right now. Earlier, we had a tiny little shower, which is pushing its way here just west of the Upper Keys. And I really think most of us are going to stay dry until we get into the late afternoon hours. But temperatures are warm, upper 80s to near 90, feels more like 100 in many spots. 106 already is what it feels like at Miami Airport currently. 90 degrees currently in Key West. And you can see it feels more like 103 in Naples, 103 Key West, and even 99 in Melbourne. So that's pretty brutal out there. Winds from the east generally between 5 and 10 miles per hour. Boaters, nothing to worry about. Beach looks pretty good except for that UV. It is extreme, and it will likely stay that way as we head into the next couple of days. More rain showers expected Wednesday and Thursday, and by next weekend, all eyes are on Irma.
Storm is one all of South Florida, including the Florida Keys, needs to watch very closely. CBS 4's Liz Horton is here now with the details. Liz, so what can you tell us?
Yeah, good afternoon. Well, it's certainly a strengthening storm. As you look right behind me, you can see the impressive eye wall structure. Very, very easy to pinpoint where that is. And yes, very strong convection around that center of circulation. Hurricane hunters flew into the storm this morning. They were able to get a better idea of what we're looking at, and they were able to tell us that the winds have strengthened to 120 miles per hour with gusts up to 140 miles per hour. Another thing we always look at is the pressure. So it's currently at 944 millibars. This morning it was around 967, so that has dropped substantially. That's also a sign of a strengthening storm. So while it's a Category 3 right now, it is expected to become a Category 4, as you can see, in about 24 hours, just as it approaches the northern Leeward Islands. And then the National Hurricane Center's latest path takes it to the west towards Cuba. Now, believe it or not, this would be a very good case scenario. Cuba tends to rip apart these storms, and it could actually help us if it is to turn and come towards South Florida. Of course, the National Hurricane Center has issued hurricane warnings now from Anguilla all the way down towards Antigua. And yes, you can see as well, we have tropical storm watches farther south than that. And the U.S. and British Virgin Islands now have hurricane watches in effect. That means hurricane conditions are expected within 48 hours. So the latest model runs, of course, continue to show as we get into Sunday, this system approaching South Florida. They do diverge a little bit as we head into the early part of next week. The big question remains, will it make a landfall somewhere near or right on top of the Keys or South Florida? It's just too early to know. It is not too early to prepare, and we encourage you to get your plan and your kit ready and in place. Back to you.
Liz, thank you. And we will continue tracking Hurricane Irma. CBS 4 Chief Meteorologist Craig Setzer will have the new advisory and forecast track coming up on CBS 4 News at 5.
We're tracking the tropics at CBS Miami. I am meteorologist Liz Horton in CBS 4 Weather Control. We're looking at the latest on Hurricane Irma. Winds of 120 miles per hour, gusts up to 140 miles per hour. It is still a Category 3 storm, but it is not expected to stay at 3 for long. Becoming a 4 likely in the next 24 hours, passing just north of the northern Leeward Islands by Wednesday morning. Then we'll likely see it take off in a west-northwest direction and maybe approach either Cuba, somewhere in between Cuba and the Bahamas by Saturday. The cone of uncertainty grows a little bit there, but the National Hurricane Center taking it in a more southerly trek there. Cuba would actually be a good thing. It might rip apart the storm a little bit and help the intensity fall just a bit. Significant wind impact definite from northern Leeward Islands all the way up towards the Bahamas, especially the southern section of that chain there. Tropical storm force winds right now can be felt 140 miles from the center of the storm, so that's something to pay attention to as well. National Hurricane Center has issued hurricane warnings for Anguilla all the way down towards Antigua. In fact, we're likely going to be seeing those northern Leeward Islands seeing the first effects of this major storm, and a hurricane watch has been issued for the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. So we will keep watch on those island chains. As we head back off towards the west, you can see the sea surface temperatures increase where you see the pink that's surrounding Florida and the Bahamas. So sea surface temperatures are ripe and ready for strengthening for the storm. So the spaghetti plots end out about 5 days, and then we shift our focus to the models. The GFS and the European model are now very close together. They were a little bit scattered the past few days, with one of them off the Carolinas, the other one down towards Florida, but they've really come together and converged. And so that's, of course, giving meteorologists reason for concern. So, of course, by Monday now, it's slowed down just a little bit. It looks like Sunday into Monday, we could be seeing effects in, on, or near South Florida, pushing out past us by Monday late into Tuesday. So we will be watching it. Tropics outlook, not just focused on Irma. We have one other wave that has a 70% chance of development in the next 5 days, and also a wave near the Bay of Campeche that has about a 30 to 40% chance of growing into our next named storm system. We will continue to track the tropics here. The latest complete advisory on Irma is due around 5 o'clock, and Chief Meteorologist Craig Setzer will be in then with more details.